So I'd like to now call on Dr. Bala to make his presentation. Dr. Julius Bala and his wife have been married for how many years? Can you show us their picture of their wedding? Please, madam, come here. 39 years. Oh, okay, show us. Oh, okay, okay, okay.
I thank you very much. I think I should avoid salutations and recognitions, but I must start by thanking Father George Ehusani for inviting me come and speak subject matter on marriage topic, making marital relationship work. I first encountered Father Ehusani in around 1992, 1993 in Lagos at Church of Assumption, Falomo. Every Sunday, when he used to make excellent, as always, homilies. So we lived not far from Church of Assumption. We had our twin children then who were just about 1 year old at that time. And every time I was going to communion, I will hold the two twins and move for communion, and he would put his hands on them. This went on for a number of years, but we never really spoke with one another. Just encounter at the altar. Apparently, he took notice of me, and he recognized me. And so when he moved to Abuja in the early 2000s, I think also around 2005, 2006, we met again in another Church of Assumption here at Asokoro. And Father Ehusani has invited me to come and speak on, I think, 3 or 4 occasions. The first was on marriage, a counter on how to bring up Catholic children. The second was on integrity, which was here at Lux Terra. He asked me to make the same speech at Enugu some time ago, and I was not available to do that. Also, he has invited me to speak to you today on marriage. The interesting thing about my relationship with Father Ehusani is that our relationship has not been that very personal, very close. There are 3 priests, if I will use that word, whom I have been very close with in Abuja. This is first late Father Jim Shirin. He knows my wife and I very closely, and all our children. Father Georgie, who was Innocent Georgie, who was the priest at Church of Assumption before Father Ehusani took over, and John Cardinal Onaika. They know me and they know my family very closely. But the interesting thing is that Father Ehusani always challenged me on my Christian faith and my personal life by asking me to come and speak on really very important issues. And I really wonder sometimes, why does he invite me? He doesn't know me this closely to talk about child upbringing, to talk about integrity, and now marriage. What I believe is that Father Ehusani has some faith in me. Although we have this not too close relationship, he sees me and have some faith in me. And I really want to thank him for that, for having faith that I can come and talk on issues that he should or he would normally invite somebody whom he knows is well grounded on such subjects. On the issue of marriage encounter and child upbringing, which I did at Church of Assumption, I think about 14, 15 years ago. Even last week, one lady called me to ask a request for advice based on the presentation I made. And I want to thank Father Husani for really giving me this opportunity to have an influence on other people's lives. On the issue of integrity, of course, I had worked with government. I was at one time Director General of Bureau of Public Enterprises. I was providing leadership for that organization, which had revenues in billions of dollars and assets of trillions of dollars. And I left the job. I was made to leave the job unceremoniously. And I always thank God every day for that, because my values were completely against the values of the people at the highest levels I worked with, and that's why I had to leave. And suddenly, Father Ehusani, some years ago, called me to speak on integrity. I guess he may have looked at the role I had played when I was working in government, and he knew that I have never been called, even once, any inquisition, despite the enormous assets that I have had to provide leadership for when I was in government. And now marriage. I think today is the first time Father Husani is meeting my wife. He doesn't know whether I have a good marriage. And he called me to talk on marriage. And this is because I believe he has faith in me. And I really, truly want to thank him for that, because you don't meet many people in your life who believe in you. It's like believing in Christ without really seeing Christ or knowing, I really want to, is he around? I really want to thank you very much for the faith that you have had in me. I feel really humbled, and I thank him very much for this. And he had called me. Actually, we were coming back from home when he called me. Luckily, the telephone was working, and he asked me to talk on marriage. He said that there are so much marriage that are broken these days, and he wants me to speak on marriage. Actually, my wife was on my side, and he insisted that my wife must come with me. And I'll talk about that, about my wife coming with me later. And I said that marriage, I think Father Ehusani doesn't know anything about our marital life. He has never met my wife, my darling wife, except today. May have not seen our pictures. He may have seen these pictures, some of these pictures on the internet. But we have these pictures on the internet some years ago doesn't mean we have a successful marriage. To be able to address this august audience on how to make marriage relationships successful. That my wife and me are still together today, and if you listen to what he has said, doesn't mean we're having successful marriage to enable us, other people like you, emulate. But I really, once more, would want to thank Father Husani for the constant faith he has in me to be able, and the belief he has in me. He asked me to speak specifically in line with the ideas of Professor Jordan Peterson. You remember in his presentation, he had talked about some of the ideas of Professor Jordan Peterson, who is a clinical psychologist at the University of Toronto, Canada, who has offered ideas to young men especially on seeking right woman to marry and for proper child upbringing. And Father Ehusani has laid a very solid foundation for this issue of marriage today. The spiritual aspects, which is for us Catholics, most important thing that should guide our marriage and keep us together. I am not qualified at all to speak about that. However, he said that he was brought up in a marriage. He is very qualified to talk about marriage because he has had a lot about marriage, marital problems, and the rest. I will grudgingly agree with him on that because you have to be on the battleground of marriage on a day-to-day basis. If you don't mind, I say that, for you to know what marriage really is. It's a battleground. You need to be in it on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, we have disqualified you from being in that battleground. They say experience is the best teacher. So I will speak about those practical things about marriage, which Professor Peterson has talked about, and I will talk about this later. I would like to see how it has applied to my life with my wife. Yeah, so I'm giving a different perspective to another perspective, if I put it so, to what Father Ehusani has talked about. Professor Peterson identified three key ingredients for a successful marriage. One, he said necessity for physical chemistry. That is, there should be some attraction between couples. That is for those who want to get married. There should be some physical chemistry. There must be some attraction. And he also went on to say they must be sexually and physically attracted. Of course, Father Husani has talked very well that you can easily go to the extreme of abuse, sexual and physical abuse in marriage. But that ingredient has to be there at first when you encounter one another. It is the beginning of the process that has built up to the almost 40 years that I am living with. And you can see the pictures from the beginning. One of the pictures were actually before we got married. One in which, in those days, if you are a guy, you have to open up your chest a bit so that... This was the night of our wedding. And the other one in which I had opened my chest was before our wedding. The other one was in 1990s, the one in the middle, and the last one. Yeah, this is the one before our wedding. And how can these two people not... There is just mutual attraction between us, even our looks. Anyway, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that later. There should be physical attraction, which is very important for marital relationship, and it should sustain something that should sustain the marriage. And Father Husani has emphasized this, that there is necessary for there to be trust. And this is what Professor Peterson also said. Trust to exist between two marriage couples. And he said that no marriage can be successful without trust. Honesty, he wrote, is very difficult in all marriages. Honesty and trust. And he argued that when you come into marriage from the beginning, you come with a lot of baggages. And it is natural or normal for people to hide all those baggages because, for example, a lot of ladies and also a lot of guys, they try to hide certain things about them so as to get the woman to marry them at the beginning. But those important things should not be hidden, should be talked about. And very frequently they become major obstacles subsequently when people begin to live together. So honesty and openness are very important ingredients. He said that unsaid commit, there should be, that this should be very, very key for marriage to work. And third major ingredient for successful marriage, as identified by Professor Peterson, is necessity for absolute commitment to the marriage by both couples. I think Father Usani also has emphasized that. He said, no looking back. There should be no, once you get into it, no looking back. There should be no back door. You should not think about harboring the idea of a back door with which to get out. So these are the three basic ideas in Professor Peterson's presentation, which Father Ehusani told me to read and try to speak in line with those. And what I intend to do is to assess our marriage life between my wife and I in line with these three ingredients. I must start by saying that my wife is a very humble, and I told Father Ehusani when he asked that we should come. My wife generally doesn't like to get involved in large crowds. She is a very personal, just like me in so many ways. I was forced to be more outgoing as I had to teach in university, and I had to also work with government. But basically, I'm also, like my wife, and I will talk about that later on, a very private person. My wife is very self-effacing. She never tries to take credit for things that she has done. And this is one of the things that I value a great deal about my wife. She does. Yesterday, we had guests in our house. From morning, she had to work and prepare a lot of food, different kind of food, and the people came. From morning right up to night, we were enjoying and talking. We were having meeting. We finished the meeting around 8 p.m. She didn't join us to eat because when you prepare so much food, a woman prepares so much food, the desire to eat actually is not there. And I know that. And she went up to start to prepare to sleep. And the people who came, they said, okay, they want to take home some of the things. We had to call her about 8:30, 9 to come down and put things in the takeaway park and see the guests away, the whole day. But this is something my wife does so constantly. And one of the key reasons why I value my wife a great deal. She has, and I want to use this occasion. I never really have to celebrate my wife publicly. And I want to use this occasion to really celebrate her because she has really played a big role in making our marriage work. Please, can you give her a round of applause? And I want to thank Father Ehusani for giving me the opportunity for this. I've never had the opportunity to celebrate my wife, apart from when she makes all the delicious food. I say thank you and the rest. So I really thank Father Ehusani once more for giving me this opportunity to celebrate my wife. I met my wife at a departmental store in Zaria. She was a student, and I was a lecturer in ABU. There was an immediate attraction when we met. I mean, you saw all the pictures of our youthful days. We were both of the same height, more or less. We were very slim. We have all put on a lot of flesh, after all these days. We have similar facial features. There are different kind of faces. There is the diamond-shaped face. I have a diamond-shaped face. It's goes down like this and goes. My wife has the same. We didn't look at that when we met, but we just found out later. There was really a physical attraction between us. It was a very beautiful young lady, and I thought also I was quite handsome. Was I? So, so there was this attraction, physical attraction, which, as you remember, Professor Peterson did emphasize. It was much later that I began to reflect on all of these things. But there was more than the physical attraction, and this is what brought us really close together. We are both from Shandam. We didn't know that when we met one another in the department store. Shandam in Plateau State. Shandam is a town in the southern part of Plateau. And we speak the same local Nigerian language. I will tell you the implications of that subsequently, because Professor Peterson emphasized just physical attraction. And I want to say that physical attraction is not enough. When you make physical attraction or sexual attraction the main thing, that is when you run into a lot of problems. Marriage and into sexual abuse. You make sex the beginning and end of your life, and it ends. It ends when you make sex the only thing, or the physical attraction the main thing. Secondly, I didn't know that also until later, that her father and my father had been in the police force together for a long time. And by the time we met, my father and her father had related closely in the police force for more than 20 years. And we all come from the same area. So there has been a close family relationship behind us, that later on we fell back on. Now most our parents, they have all gone. So we are the parents now, but earlier on we fell back a lot on those close family relationships to sustain our marriage. Most important, and this is where Father Ehusani's speech is very, very cardinal. We didn't know we were Catholics when we first met. We are both Catholics. And as you may know, and I have a question for Father Ehusani I will ask later on, or I will discuss with him within time. Shandam is 99.9% Catholic. The Catholic Church started in the northern part of the country at Shandam. The first missionaries to come into the northern part of the country settled in Shandam, and it is from Shandam that the Catholic Church began to spread to other parts of the north. So, we had this strong Catholic background for marriage. And my wife went to a convent, to a secondary school, St. Louis College, Kano, which was run by nuns. So she had a very, very solid and well-built Catholic faith by the time we met. But by mid-1970s, I had begun to play around with Marxist ideas on religion being the opium of the people. And I was a Marxist. I was a member of the local communist party in ABU at that time. Pardon me? Bala Usman and the rest. We were in the Faculty of Social Sciences. And now I met this lady who was at that time, and today I went to wake her up to tell her we should prepare to come here. She was already saying her mass. So she was much stronger than me, although I have improved since then. I have. In terms of the Catholic faith and the those important things to marriage, that Catholic marriage that Father Ehusani talked about. And I must also thank her for bringing me back strongly into the Catholic faith. Because now I want to marry this lady who is a Catholic, so I have to forget about this idea on religion being opium of the people. And more importantly, I think it still exists these days, that for you to get married, you have to get a letter from your parish priest. And we are going to marry in Shandam, and I want to marry my beautiful wife. And now I have to begin to go to church. And then I know she reminded me one time. She said, "Look, you some time ago you were talking about I had doubts on your religious commitment, your spiritual commitment." But I have never thanked her for that. So today again, I want to thank her very much for bringing me back to the Catholic faith strongly. But there is something that Winston Churchill said. He says that if you are 20 and you are not a socialist or communist, a young man, that is, you don't have ideas in which you are challenging everything in the world, then there's something is wrong with you. He also said that if you are 40 and you are still a communist, then there's something wrong with you. So now I am 60. Actually, last month I turned 67. So there must be something wrong with me if today I'm thinking in line with what Karl Marx said. But I thank my wife, for bringing me back strongly into the Catholic faith. We're also both, I don't know if I would use the word introverts. We're not, you remember I told you earlier on, we're not that so much engaged on public issues with the public. We're not extreme introverts, but we are not extroverts. And this helps us because when my wife will want to sit down and keep quiet, or I want to sit down and keep quiet, my wife does not complain, he's ignoring me, he's not talking. This creates problems in some marriages. So when my wife is sitting down quietly and reflecting on other things or doing things, I understand, because I do that also. So we have similar character and personality traits. I remember I have a relative who is an extreme extrovert, and the husband is extreme introvert. It's a very difficult marriage life that they are having because they are on the opposite side. So this is also very important. Also, my wife, one of the things I celebrate in her, she's a very humble person, very modest in her ways, dress always very simply. She doesn't put too much cosmetics, just a little to enhance her look. And this is what I like. Apart from the costs, actually, when I look at, I'm not criticizing women who like to but some women look like masquerades. I remember a colleague of mine when I was working in Lagos. This lady, she puts on wigs, heavy cosmetics, outrageously looking dresses, and in the heat and humidity of Lagos, she puts on stockings every day. Every day I thank God for what my wife is. She's just natural. I was wondering, that colleague of mine, I said, when do you, because in the morning, all those things early when you wake up in the morning with such a woman, the wig will not be there. The cosmetics will not be there. The clothes will not be there. The talkings, you will see a different person. How one of the things I hope most ladies, and it's increasingly becoming a huge problem, our ladies generally want to look out of ordinary. I guess everybody has his preference, but I want a woman who is really natural, who is really herself. And then you would know the person that you are dealing with, a real human being, not a doll not a doll or a statue. It's better you go and marry a nice statue and put in your house. You need a real human being to relate with on a day-to-day basis. And I thank God that my wife is such a real human being that I feel at home with at all time. So from our experience, physical and sexual attraction, as emphasized by Professor Peterson, is not enough. Of course, marriage without sex is barren and meaningless and sure to fall apart. I understand that a lot of men are attracted to ladies from Cross River State. And I understand it's because they are trained in fattening home and are advised over a period of time not to play at all with the sexual part of marital life. Who says I'm correct? Are you from that place? And so men who go to that place, either they are single or they are married, they come back with baggage. But the thing is that, please, our wives, never ever use your conjugal responsibility as a tool to fight, engage in battles. You are playing a losing battle because you are driving your man away from your home. You will go out and look for what you don't want. You are under. Well, that is why I guess somebody told Father Husseini that she is that of conjugal rights. I think it's not, and men do it also, I must say. They say, I want to make this woman suffer. And so everybody will turn like this on the bed. It kills a marriage. Because I think that sexual aspect of marital life is the glue. This is what bonds two married people. And of course, the foundation of the spiritual life that Father Husseini emphasized should be there. But you should never ever play with your conjugal responsibility. Then the man will begin to look at those young girls. So I hope you know. So don't do that. There's a big danger to marriage if sexual relationship is non-existent. That's one important thing I would like to say. So it's not just physical and sexual attraction. There has to be all those other things that has supported my wife, about our family relationship, about where we come from, the fact that we speak the same language. And when it is end of year, I know it's good to be idealistic. When it's the end of the year, me and my wife, we don't think about where to go to. We carry ourselves straight to our village. We don't quarrel over whether we should go to Maiduguri or Sokoto. Sometimes it's a very big problem in some marriages. I do appreciate that maybe I have not been very adventurous when I was younger. But this is changing definitely. I can't expect my children They are presently in Taiwan, and Father Husani knows them, to do the kind of get involved with a lady like me. They would meet all sorts of different ladies, so things are changing. But it has helped our marriage. The thing is, the more you have in common with your partner, the higher the chances of a sustainable marriage. Okay, the second issue emphasized by Professor Peterson on openness and truthfulness. This is one of the biggest problems in almost every, if not all, marriages. The issue of openness to one another and truthfulness. It was definitely, from the time we got married, one of the issues that we had to grapple with, like most married people. And I want to say that nobody should, and Father Ehusani emphasized that, nobody should deceive you that marriage is a bed of roses. We've had a lot of problems, and I'll tell you how we have made some efforts to try to resolve them subsequently. We have also had our own problems. Was not just a bed of roses, but every problem became a challenge that we used to make our relationship more stronger. Also because we were both introverts. We don't communicate a lot. Introverts are not expressive. So, and communication is very necessary for marriage. And if there's no communication, especially at the early stages of marriage, you will battle with a lot of misconception, misperception, and misunderstanding. The husband will sit down and just assume, you are doing this and this and that and that. The wife will assume, why are you speaking with that girl and this and that and that? Or a lot of misperception because of lack of communication. And once you are able to talk, once you are able to communicate, and it's very difficult, especially when you have two people who have high level of introversion. But we have gradually grown out of that through time. Sometimes, the longer you stay together, you get to know the person even without talking. You study the body language. You get to know a lot about the person through time. You can only know about 20 to 30 or 40% of the person you are going to get married to. It is the years and years and years of staying together, you begin to know the person, and a greater level of understanding will come into being. But one factor which Father Ehusani emphasized that is very, very necessary is constant communication. You must constantly. I remember we had a marriage encounter, my wife and I, with a priest. And he says that before you go to sleep every day, review your day, review your relationship. Whatever bad feelings you have, say it before you go to sleep. Those things you misperceive, say it. So, and talk about it and put that day behind you. So, constant communication, which we began to develop, and Father Ehusani also spoke very, very well about skill of communication. It does not come natural. And like he said, the situation of our culture does not promote much listening. Communication is not just talking. Communication is also listening. I began to appreciate what communication is when I went to do my PhD in Japan. And in that society, people don't talk much. Indeed, you get to know people a great deal more by listening and watching. Not talking. When you talk, people can say all sorts of things. But action speaks louder than words. You understand people more by watching with your eyes and listening with your ear. And this is what we have tried to do from especially the last 20 years or so, when I began to spend more time at home. 15, 20 years ago, I began to spend more time at home. I was in the process of retiring from government and the rest. And when you retire and go back home, you just have to be talking. You just have to be communicating. And this has helped us a great deal, in resolving some of the problems we have on openness and truthfulness. Most important, my wife has been a major source of support for me for all I have attained in my life. I must acknowledge that too. And there's the usual saying that behind every successful man there is a woman. In my own case, it's the same. But it's very interesting the way she has done it. My wife has never put any, even for once, put any undue expectation on me. Once. She's never demanded or asked for something that I cannot afford, even for once. She's always satisfied with who I am and what I have. Always. We got married in 1982. I was a lecturer, and my salary at that time was 250 naira per month. I started 240 naira, and by the time we married, but it was good money at that time. It was good money. I had one catering. I was in the catering flat in ABU behind Faculty of Education. We had 2 bedrooms, very simple life. I had a Volkswagen Beetle, the 1300 cc, the smallest one, not the biggest. My wife loved me, despite simple things of life that I had. She was always satisfied with what I can bring home. This is something that endeared me so much to my wife, and I need to say this to her on this occasion. Also, we have successfully raised our children. Father Husani, like I said, knows them, and he's been involved with them here. One of our sons, we had doing his PhD in international business. One of the twins I used to hold to the church in 1992. One is doing a PhD in international business. One has concluded his master's, and he's thinking about working either with a international bank or come back home or something. Also, we have our daughter and another son who are doing very well. An important ingredient of successful marriage also relates to the ability to raise children successfully. And I think Father Husani also emphasized that if you are not successful in bringing up your children well, it will put a great deal of stress on your marriage. So, and you need to sit down again to agree on how you are going to bring your children up. In many marriages, the husband is dragging the children here, and the wife is dragging the children there. Doesn't that happen? And the children become battlegrounds for the battle of wills between parents. And you just destroy your children. Many children have been destroyed. And also, marriage gets destroyed in that process. So you need to sit down constantly to destroy. Okay. All right. I think I need to round up. The last issue of absolute commitment. I think my wife has shown a great deal of absolute commitment to the marriage all of the time, even more than me. There has never been one time that my wife has shown any doubt at all on our marriage, not even once. I don't know, after staying with my wife for a long time, I think I know what goes on in her mind. I am sometimes the doubting Thomas and raise issues. And whenever I do that, I can see she just looks at me. You go on with your foolish thoughts and behavior, but I am stuck on the ground in this marriage. And after a while, I come back to my senses and realize that position, and this is what commitment, not to even think at all on the possibility of leaving the marriage. And I want to call her Mrs. Commitment Marriage. My wife has been completely committed, and I want to also thank her for that. I want to conclude now. That marriage is a constant work in progress until death do we part. Every stage of marital life brings its own challenges, and married couples must constantly work hard, especially on commitments and show of love, to deal with the challenges that come on from time to time in marriage. So love and communication are key to the challenges that you will face at every stage of marriage. And I want to finish the speech by once more thanking my darling wife, most of all for constantly showering me with absolute love. This has been a key reason for the success of our marriage and our life during the last 39 years. Please, can we once more stand up and give her a standing ovation? And for prospective couples, please sit down. And for prospective couples, I pray you will have a partner with the right character to sustain your marriage. For those already in marriage, please ensure that love, commitment, and constant communication are key parts of your marriage. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam. Now you will come celebrate. Barka. So we thank God, and I think it is a wonderful thing for quiet, unassuming wives to be so celebrated, right? I mean, these are things people say on the occasion of the death of somebody. How wonderful she was. How wonderful she was. Why didn't you say it? So I thank God that how wonderful you are is being said. Actually, John Gottman, if you Google John Gottman, who is an expert on marital issues, he says one of the things that can sustain Dr. John Gottman, actually, he says one of the factors to make marriage successful is that not only you appreciate your spouse, but open your mouth and tell her and tell him. So what Dr. Bala has done this afternoon is the admiration, the appreciation that he had been hiding all this while. He found an opportunity here to express it. I am going to tell your sons, your twins, I'm going to tell them what you have done, and I will send this clip of your celebrating their mother. I will send it to them. So that they know that if the marriage of their father and mother are standing, they know who is responsible. Great. You try small. Madam, no, we need to hear from. Did he try? He tried. You agree? Okay, clap for him too. I think talking about marriage and what will make marriage work, I think the approach he took is a good one. I was thinking more of some theory presentation, but what he did is practical, right? This is the person I have lived with. This is her disposition. This is what has helped this marriage to survive for 39 years and will survive for many more years that you have. Now, we need to hear briefly, I would say between husband and wife, 5 minutes. I'm looking at 1:30, 1:45 latest, finish. So between husband and wife, first is Innocent and his wife, Riomakale. And please come forward and then just respond. You just respond. Please, both of you come. Respond to the issues we have talked about. Hey, psychedelic, madam. Okay. You marry this kind one, and you say that she should jump and she should ask you how high to jump. You know go walk now. Innocent. You know go walk. Please sit down. So just to respond to the issues, Innocent is part of the premarital course that has been going on for the past 10, 11 years in Asokoro. It's part of that premarital course. So he knows what we are talking about and the issues and so on. He's a lawyer and the wife is a banker. So just a few words.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I want to thank Father Usani for this opportunity. It was a Wednesday. I came to see him for something else, and he gave me this hint that we should be present. We have learned a lot, also from the last speaker.
How many years have you been married?
Just 17. Just 17. I told Father that, are you sure we can do this? Because we are still young in the business. And he said, just say, give some experiences you have had to encourage those who are behind you. It's 17 years, 4 children. The last will be 9 September. But I want to say that to maintain marital relationship or to make it work, it must be a good product. I recall that some companies are recalling vehicles that were poorly made. So we need to look at first the foundation. And I'll talk just on poor preparation, as Father stated. You know, they come for marriage class, mind is already made up. Some have even done traditional marriage. And 2 questions we want to pose to them. 1, why do you want to marry now? And the second, why this person? And you get some answers. I want to marry now because my parents are worried. A man said, I want to marry now because I need someone who will take care of my house, cook for me, and all of that. And I said, you don't need a wife, you need a house help. So there is need to know the reason you are going into this relationship. If you go in for the wrong reason, of course, there are bound to be problems. Then there is this issue of parents getting involved. We talk about boys and girls in big bodies. So there is no commitment. Everything is prepared for them. So they don't feel any sense of commitment. So you find it's the mother or father that comes to the priest to say, my children want to get married. They want to even do the prenuptial investigation with the priest. They want to approach a sponsor or a witness. And the parents go to the witness or the sponsor. I say, where are the children? Allow them to choose. Allow them to do these things. You know, what you work for, you value. But where it is given to you in a platter of gold, you feel, well, if this one doesn't work, I'll get another one. Mommy will do it again. So poor preparation and not allowing them. And then a lot prepare for reception, wedding, and not marriage. I've seen a wedding where there was a magazine on how they went throughout the world looking for a wedding gown. And I attended that wedding. They wore that wedding gown for just the mass, the wedding. The reception was another dress entirely. But what was the level of preparation for the marriage itself? Now that the marriage has taken place, why do we stop campaigning? We say in Nigeria that it is only a politician in Nigeria that keeps campaigning after winning an election. There is no action. I will. But you are there now. But for marriage, it is good to keep campaigning when you have won the election. This whole idea of campaigning while you have won an election came up from a joke. The young man was asked, when last did you take your wife out? And he said, have you seen a politician who will campaign after winning an election? The whole idea is, well, I've gotten her now. Why should I go taking her out for dinner, making those phone calls, taking a walk, buying gifts? I don't need all that anymore. She's now at home. And for the lady, why won't I tie wrapper now? Why do I still need to dress well? I've already won him. I'm now at home. Those things that attracted you to the level of elevating your friendship to courtship and now to marriage should be sustained so that there is a form of renewal of that relationship. Am I still having? I want her to also say something, so that it doesn't look for all the men.
Good afternoon. I didn't know I would have to talk, but I just need to say a little thing. What actually kept us in this marriage is the prayers we always say. Knowing fully well that, okay, when one party is offended, you know that you still go to bed, you sleep, and you wake up the following morning knowing fully well that you are going to pray. So you ask God for forgiveness, so you need to forgive one another. Yes, there's a saying that it's the way you lay your bed. That is, marriage is not a bed of roses. But I keep saying marriage is a bed of roses because it's the way you lay your bed. That is how you lie on. If you want to put roses on it, you will lie on the roses and sleep well. If you want to put tongues on it, you lie on it.
They will choke you.
And you have it. So I have decided to lay my bed with roses. And I
give her a round of applause.
That is working well for me. And we should know that all marriages are not the same. You need to communicate and you need to know what this person likes. Yes, we may have friends that will say, oh, this is what my husband does and everything. Your husband may not be able to afford that. Your wife may not be able to afford that. But you know the way your family is. You just have to manage and, get the best out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Reserve some of the roses for some of my couples here. Yes, Azubike and former Okwo, can we hear briefly from you? Thank you. In advance.
Thank you, Father George, for this opportunity and many opportunities you've given us as a couple. We came to Abuja from Lagos about 5 years ago. And one of the things that made me, because my wife was transferred to Abuja, and I was thinking about remaining in Lagos. You know, Abuja visit and all that. But one of the simple things that made me decide to leave what I was doing in Lagos and join her here is this church and Father George. I was president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, 2009 to 2012. I was president of the African Pharmaceutical Forum, the whole Africa Pharmacy, for another 4 years. But I tell you that the greatest experience I've done Catholic Church for many years also. And I used to tell my wife that maybe, just maybe, we're not judging, and maybe I would have gone to hell if I didn't meet Father George. We've been married for 30 years. That's 28. We've been married for 20
Do we go and check that area before you know?
28. Because you have the certificate, I don't have it. We've been married for 28 years. And I know that if I don't, because I saw Dr. Bala here, all he did was praise and thank his wife. And if I don't do that, I might be in trouble when I get home. So, standing on those protocols you laid, Ifeoma has also been a revelation. When I took Ifeoma to my village the first time, my local, she's from around the same local government. We are from Enugu State. I'm from Ngwo. She's from Ezeago. An old man that used to be my friend saw Ifeoma. She was tiny. And he called me at the back of the building and said, do you think you want to marry this lady? Will she be able to give birth because of her tiny waist? And I said, Papa, I prefer the tiny waist. I think that marriage is a complex institution. And one of the things that we continue to learn, or we should learn here, is that if the foundation is not right, the foundation, the concept of transcendent thought, if it is not there in the marriage, I bet you are fighting a lost battle. If you haven't known how to bring it in, it's not ever late. Even after this session, you can bring it into your marriage. The challenges are so much. We agree, Father, that over time, men did something that deserved reparations, as you talked about. We should be paying pension to women that have suffered. But I also say, Father, those young men, those 16th century young men, were raised by our women. They were raised by our women. So, before we pay reparations, I don't know what they will pay us before we pay them, because they raise those challenging young youths that we have these days. We are not free from challenges in our marriage. We argue. But you see, the point is that I read something that says, look, it is even worse when you don't argue in a marriage. There's a study from University of Michigan and Penn State that followed about 1,700 people. You bottle the thing up in your heart and you don't say anything. You are worse for it. You are worse for it. Psychologically, you are worse for it. So it is a journey that we must lay back to God to direct. If we don't do that, happiness will go. Whatever you have, material things, even the finance will go. So we just need to bend down and call God into the marriage. I think that's why we have survived so far. Let me allow my wife to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Father George. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, all.
Praise him and tell us it is because of him he survived. To balance it.
Good afternoon, all. I think what we have learned, and from practical experience, is that marriage is a unique creation by God. Just like life itself. Each child is unique. Even when they come from the same womb, the same father, the same mother. But you notice that in each child, there's something thick about that child that maybe the other child does not have. And maybe there's something the other child has, the other does not have. So each person is uniquely created, and so is marriage. One father talked in the church some weeks ago about making us a marriage counselor. I laughed within me. I said, I'm going to tell Father, this thing you are giving us, we are not fit to carry it. We too have our own. Perhaps we too need counselors. That is to say that no marriage is perfect. If you think your own is difficult, go and ask your friend in the secret of her bedroom. Because most times what we try to project is the positive and good side of us so that people will see us and admire us. And we keep the truth behind us. The truth is that each marriage has its own unique character, unique attribute, and unique opportunities. Because like we've read in the Bible, even when you think something is bad, you can also turn it around for good. Marriage is a striving. We are striving to come to church. I came back from work late yesterday, worked so late, but all throughout the night I was thinking of how I will attend this forum. Yes, I have so many other commitments. But then this was important to me. And I gave it all and all. And I think that is the way marriage should be. It is difficult, but give it all and all. Especially on the side of our women. Because we are brought up where we think that the man, it is his responsibility to take care of the children. It is his responsibility to buy food. It is his responsibility to make sure the house is working well. If God has given you the privilege, you have more money, you have more opportunity, or you have an attribute in you that your man does not have, use it to the glory of God. Use it, and in future you will laugh. Nobody will know whether it came from the woman. All they see is your product, that you've done a good job, and you'll be happy for it. So let us strive towards marriage. There is no 1 + 1 about marriage. 1 + 1 does not give 2. 2 + 2 in marriage does not give 3. Make your own tick. Make it work, and we'll all be happy, and our product will be beautiful, the society will be good, and we'll all live in harmony to the glory of God. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, Andy and Nkechi Ode.
Good afternoon, Father. Good afternoon, church, and for friends of Luke's Terra who are with us today. Ours is an interesting journey. You've heard about those who are from the same state, speak the same language, the same background. Kechi originally is from Delta State. I originally from Benue State. We are now one. But I'll tell you something that is very interesting about how we started our journey. We courted for 5 years, and the courtship was purely based on Christian doctrine, and it was very simple. Just getting to know each other. My parents had retired, my father was home. Anytime I'm going home, she writes her letters to my parents, and I'm coming back, she did down replies to her. But something that also stood out when we decided to get married. We said we need to have a theme for our marriage, which will be forever. A theme for the marriage
and by God's grace was blessed, is together forever. Together forever. And everything that we have done in our marriage is focused on the fact that you can't run away, I can't run away. So it affects how we spend money, how we save money, how we communicate, how we bring up our children. I'll just talk on two of those issues. She will talk about one big challenge that we had in the course of our marriage. But I'll just talk on two that, for me, and for those that Father George has sent to us to talk to about marriage or challenges, we've talked to them about. One is how the finance is run, how families should invest. Before we got married, we had an agreement that we'll have a joint account. That joint account was from that account we saved money and organized our wedding before we got married. When we got married, that account has remained. That is the account that housekeeping money goes into. That's the account where we save money for upkeep of the children. And that's the account that, okay, once in a while we do things with. However, she has her own account, personal account, I have my personal account. But the interesting thing is that she knows, or I know everything that goes into her account. And this is the one that is also interesting. She doesn't know everything that is in my account. But, when it's time to apply for visa, statements are required, and I put it together, and it goes to her because she manages all that kind of activities. At the end of the day, she gets to know what I earn. But the thing is, the point I'm trying to make is that every money we make, every money we save, both of us are aware. Secondly, when we were buying our first piece of land, question was, so in whose name would it be? Not from her. That piece of land is not in Mr. and Mrs. Ode's name. It is in Mr. Andrew and Mrs. Nkechi Ode. Now, I recall when we were trying to do the document for our house in Lagos, and this is very interesting as well. We had done the document to get the governor's consent to sign off on the document. And the lady who was in charge of the final sign-off said, I want to see this man. I went in there and she said, it is very rare that for this kind of property, I've hardly seen property written in the name of the husband, not just Mr. and Mrs. whatever, but your wife's full name and your full names. Why did you do that? I just said, well, we decided that that's what we'll do. She said, what is instructive there is that if tomorrow you decide to marry another wife, which I said no, or your wife decides to marry another husband, which I said no, this document, it must be agreed between both of you before anything happens to that property. I said yes. So again, and everything we own, either the cars, any property we own is in our names. If she buys a car, same thing. If I buy a car, same thing. Second one, bringing up
Please give them a round of applause for that. Just before he continues, know that I have constantly campaigned for that. If you want your marriage to be stable, financial trust is key. All of you who are hiding what you have from one another, your marriage is shaky. I mean, and I'm saying it with all sense of responsibility. You can laugh. I'm saying it with all sense of responsibility. If you have a spouse who doesn't know what you have, and you have a spouse who doesn't know what, then that marriage is fake. It's not a true Christian marriage. Without financial trust, all other things cannot hold. It is very, very fundamental. And I know that 90% or 95% of married people don't have that financial trust. Unfortunately, that is part of why the marriages are not stable. As you finish from here, please think about this. And the more of that you do, I believe the more God blesses you. You hide, you are often just hiding your poverty. That's it.
The second one is children. So, I'm my mother's only child. First son of my father. Father was a soldier, so you know what that means. Okay. Interestingly, too, long after he retired, before he passed on, he became a very strong Christian, a Catholic, a real Catholic. real one. And what used to happen when we were very young was Sunday mornings, everybody's in the car, he takes everybody to church, then he goes back, buys his newspapers, and he comes back to pick us up. But all that changed. But why I'm saying this is that bringing up our children or even having kids, I remember my mother-in-law, mommy said, when she was doing her own question, she said, please tell me, do you intend to marry more than one wife? I said, no, ma. He said, how many children do you intend to have? I said, we haven't decided. He said, what if you have boys and you don't have girls? Or what if you have girls and you don't have boys? I said, it doesn't matter. We have 3 girls. The eldest she graduated a year and a half ago. She'll be 25. She's working now in Canada. The 3 of them are in Canada. And what we did when we're having these girls, we first of all get them to understand and get ourselves to understand that first, they are human beings. They are Christians. So the world, it doesn't matter whether you are male or female. It doesn't matter. And every opportunity that is given, that I will give to my cousin or my brother, who either stayed with me, lived with us, or I support, the same thing with our kids, our daughters. They are very strong. Father, today, 3 of them are in Canada. The youngest is in her second year, just finished second year, going to third year in university. The second one graduated, graduation will be in June. We do not have any doubts about how they are living their lives. Every Sunday, late in the evening, in Canada, they listen to the homily that is done from this church, and we have conversation about the homilies all the time. So the point I'm making for those who we have spoken to and who have spoken to us about, he's not giving me a boy or I don't have a girl. The truth is that what you have is what you have. It's actually your cross to carry. The responsibilities you have is to bring them up as Christians and as successful people in life. So, the easy ones, the 2 easy things I've dealt with. But one thing I'll say about her too is she's not an accountant, but if you go back to 25 years ago, the documentation that we did, the notes that we took for drinks at the reception and everything, she still has them. There are small notes in the house that she keeps. She is so thorough. I may be as thorough, but not.
Do you still have
thorough.
the list from the parents?
Yes.
She still has it?
Yes, she has. Interestingly, too, her father was the same. He has a file. By the time we got married, he said to me, so this is your wife's file, results from primary school up the way to secondary school and university. So I know where that is coming from, father. So I said the third one is something that happens. Some marriages it happens, some it doesn't happen, but there's always something that tests your marriage. And it's a cross you carry for such a long time. So I'll leave her to help me carry the conversation from here. Thank you.
Thank you, my love. The truth is, actually the person that manages our accounts, joint account, children's account, he's never one day withdraw money, but he will send me, and I'll say, oh, so it's my signature every time. Always withdrawing money, but that's always a joke. And he's not tight-fisted when it comes to finances. I remember my father asked me one question when we were getting married. What do you like about Andy? And there are so many things I could say. Then when he now asked me, what don't you like? I was dumbfounded because I hadn't thought about that aspect. And it made me think. And so what I told him was that, I know this Andy likes to spend money. And me, I'm the opposite. I'll think first, but later in life, I got to know that sometimes it's good you allow him spend when he wants to spend, because at that time it was best time to make the right investment decision. So with that, we didn't have any problem. Then I just want to talk basically about trust. And that is where our marriage is really anchored on. In 2003, yes, my husband got transferred to Port Harcourt first, initially. Corporate headquarters was in Lagos. And then later, after 1.5 years, it was moved to Bonny. The whole transfer took 16 years. By God's grace, he was just brought to join me here in Abuja. I moved here 5 years ago, in 2019, June. So for that period of 16 years, how did we keep the marriage going? basically, honestly, totally is based on trust, the grace of God and prayer. I block my mind to all sort of talks. You know, you get colleagues saying, how come you're always around? You don't travel to Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt girls, so blah, blah, blah. But I don't put my mind on that. Honestly speaking, I never bothered one day because he didn't give me any reason to. Every 2 weeks, he was always in Lagos. Every day, 4 or 5 phone calls a day. Even when I was having some challenges with children, growing up looking after children, alone was challenging, but he was always there to fill the gaps. So I didn't have any problem. And I can't start distrusting when I didn't see or have any reason not to. So there was complete, absolute, total trust throughout those years. And God used that to sustain our marriage. We've been friends from the beginning. We could talk about anything and everything. So we could laugh, joke, and he's a very humorous person. He doesn't take anything too seriously. Even food, he's easy, he's kind, he's nice, seriously. And all those things help to make the marriage go on. He's very understanding. And I always tell him all the time that I'm so glad that he's my husband and he's the father of our children. Honestly speaking, truth be told, that is it. He has made the journey quite easy. Even when we were staying apart, it didn't seem as if we were
one thing.
No, that's the honest truth. So trust, complete trust. I didn't have any doubts, and he didn't give me any reason to. So those things have helped our marriage to grow. And the fact that we can talk about a lot of things, even if we have challenges, there's one small thing between us now, but nobody will know. We're just not talking about it. But we are just not talking about it, but we know there's still something here somewhere. We have disagreed on a particular issue. And he's not happy about it, but it's the first time I'm really disagreeing and I'm putting my foot down on it. And he's like, okay, let me just leave you on the girls. But I know he's still hanging somewhere, but he didn't change his behavior. That's the honest truth. He didn't change his behavior towards me, or some people will use this silence mentality. No, we are still going on as if there's nothing there, but we all know that we'll still have to cross that thing. But with the grace of God, I'm praying about it. I'm sure. Are you praying about it? So I'm still praying about it. I have the girls on my side. So he too is also praying about it. But you see, I keep telling him that, okay, I'm not... I'm more faith-based in what's my own decision. He's more practical, Nigeria, Naira, exchange rate. And when he says those things, it gets at me. But me, I'm faith-based. I just believe that God can do anything. So, but they say the Naira is going to be the value. Like, always, I say, I don't believe all those things. You take that aspect, but me, I'm taking the faith-based side. I'm trusting God, and I'm praying about it. So by the grace of God, we are going through.
So let me thank you very much. What she's talking about, Father, if you don't mind, because it's useful for us to talk about it. So we moved out of Lagos. We are all now in Abuja. We have a property, large property. We didn't have a need for it. We need to decide to do something about it. And typical of the way we deal with issues like this is to talk about it. So we've been talking about it. Unfortunately, for me, on this one, all the girls are with her. So I said, okay, so we've agreed to give it time. We'll talk about it. We'll keep talking about it. But the thing is that we've reached a point now where in our relationship, do not allow anything bother us. It's a house. We decide what to do with it. We need to agree, and that's where we are. So it is not a big deal, like she always say, that I say. But the thing about us that I said when I started is that we said to ourselves, it's together forever. So there's nothing that we cannot deal with if we commit it to God. And I think on this one, and our prayers every night, we commit it to God. So thank you very much for listening to us, and wish that your marriage should be together forever as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Emeka Ibe, if you are hearing us, a couple that was meant to be here is one of us, Emeka Ibe. Both Emeka Ibe and his wife are marriage counselors, and they will speak. Emeka will talk to us for 2-3 minutes. 3 minutes maximum, and then we'll round up.
I said good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Greetings from Lagos.
Good afternoon.
I introduce me, my name is Emeka Ibe, and my wife is Uche Ibe. We are members of the Terra family, but unfortunately, we can't be with you today. And we're there in spirit. We have been married 20. April 20 of this year made our 28th anniversary, and we are very grateful to God. And like Father mentioned, we work with the Catholic community in Lagos as with my wife, who is responsible for the dinner. Like I mentioned, the interviews we had. Then I made the decision to marry my wife. Before I went in prayer to God, the first thing I told myself that to forgive of all things she does and have not done for the period of our marriage. And that is what has given me stability, what has given me peace of mind. It was a little tough for her to begin to work. That was my position. But down the line, she saw my disposition, she saw my attitude, and she saw my way of life. And along this line, she started working with me. My admonition for all the couple here is, you must be ready and prepared for marriage. If you're ready and prepared for marriage, you do yourself introspection, you go to God in prayers, and then you go to your lady. Read. Discover for them. And when you do that, most times you leave everything to fate. You have long-term agreements and short-term day-to-day goals. And that is what has worked for us for 28 years. So the most important thing for us is we agree to forgive ourselves of things done and things yet to be done, even if they're not done. So that at the end of the day, even if done, it will be easy and right for you to manage, because that's the promise you have made. And that promise, you just don't make it yourself or to your spouse, you make that mission. And I believe that with those kind of commitments, on day-to-day basis, all speakers have said, you communicate, you do your prayers, morning, night, and sometimes in our marriage, more than 10 years, I was there in Abuja those letters. But because of the commitment we have to ourselves and to God, it has been a very successful marriage. I will tell everyone there that I will give my marriage, if I have successful marriage with my wife, I will give my 100%. I'm confident of that because of how our relationship has turned out. And to the credit of my wife, out of that 90%, we should have done like 80% of it. So I am very grateful to my wife, I'm very grateful to God, and I'm very grateful to my own family for being the pillar of the most in our relationship. And that is what I wish to all the people who are committed to Christian marriage. Thank you very much, and God bless all of us. God bless the institution of marriage. Just like I discussed with Father George, there's a very popular Nigerian, Charlie Boy. In the last 1 week or 2 weeks, he had an interview that has been trending. That been married for 40 years.
Yeah, Charlie Boy has been married for 40 years, and Charlie Boy, who is known to be some kind of rascal. Yeah, we're not hearing you too clearly, and also I wanted to talk about that Charlie Boy thing before you close.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you very much. It's not hearing me, but you can go on the issue of Charlie Boy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The story of Charlie Boy he mentioned, I don't know how many of you saw it in social media. Charlie Boy is marking 40th anniversary of his marriage. As you know, in spite of all this rough thing, he was brought up a Catholic by Justice Oputa. Now, Charlie Boy says that our marriage leaks, but we are in it for life. He says what he means by our marriage leaks is that there are problems, there are challenges, but that we are in it for life. We will keep struggling through. And he had his picture with his 40-year-old wife sitting on his lap and said, look, no matter how much this thing leaks, we are in it for life. Absolutely important to hear it from somebody like him. Because everybody will think that he's into serial marriages and marry one today, drop tomorrow, take another, and so on. But his marriage is 40 years today. So, thank you, Emeka, for the brief talk. The sound wasn't excellent. We will try and improve on that in future. I want to end by thanking, we are a bit running out of time. I'm sure some people would have had questions they want to ask, but I will ask you to engage these experienced couples immediately after. Dr. Bala and his wife want to leave now. And I want to formally bring it to an end. Then for the next 15, 20 minutes, we can still hang around and chat. So I want to thank Dr. Bala and his wife for coming. Particularly, I want to thank you for the approach you took to celebrate a quiet person who normally a lot of these people live their quiet lives like this. And one day she is dead and she was never celebrated. I want to thank you for taking the approach you took, which other people copied. So thank you very much. Another applause for him. And I want to thank of course, the Aromocales and the Odes and the Mekai base who have given testimony also. My prayer is that this encounter will help marriages, for people to rejig their marriages, right? For each marriage, there must be things we are supposed to be doing that we are not doing well. My hope is that this event will help people to go back and do some homework so as to improve the quality of their marital relationship. And my own wish and dream is that every adult Catholic male and female here will automatically become marriage counselors on account of the things we do here. This is a training place. It's for training of trainers. So we train you here, you go out there to train others. We counsel you here, you go out there to counsel others. So my hope is that with this event and similar ones we have had or we are going to be having, we had last year, we had one on parenting, right? Or is it 2 years ago? 2 years ago we had one on parenting. That we'll be having these kind of things so that's to equip the average member here to help others. May the Lord bless your marriages with love and understanding and peace. May the Lord ward off those negative tendencies and viruses and toxins that make marriage so problematic in our age. Those who are preparing for marriage among us and those watching us on social media, may the Lord grant you. Everybody has spoken about foundation. May the Lord help you to have a solid foundation for your marriage. Amen. Let me look for somebody who would say, Father is here. You have no experience because you are not married, but say prayer. You can at least pray for couples. They say we who have no, Dr. Bala say we have no, but say prayers for those who have experience.
You have said the prayer already. Let me bless you. Let's rise. The Lord be with you. All powerful and ever-loving Father, from you every family in heaven and on earth takes its name. Look with love and mercy upon your children, families gathered here, and those aspiring to start a family. We ask you to bless, guide, and protect them. Grant success to all their work in making their marriages successful. Bless them with your presence every day, every minute, every second. May they see their married life as a journey with you. that will ultimately lead to eternal life. We ask this through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Thank you.